On today's video, we are going to unbox, bore sight, and shoot this CVA Wolf muzzleloader. Hey there, outdoor YouTubers. It's Dave Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors. And like I said earlier, in today's video, we're going to go through the CVA Wolf muzzleloader. All right, we're going to unbox it, we're going to bore sight it, and we're going to take a few shots. And one thing that I'm sure kind of jumps out at you right away that I think is pretty cool is that I actually got this in the snow camo pattern. I think it looks pretty neat. There's a few choices. I could have went with the more traditional green and brown. Of course, you can go with just the flat black. But I kind of like this snow camo. I think it's a little bit unique. Where I hunt in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, when the muzzleloading season rolls around, there is generally snow on the ground. And I think you saw the scope mounts on it. And here's the scope inside this package. Comes with a nice manual, and we'll bring this out. And this gun rest will help us out for mounting the scope and kind of just displaying it as we go over a few things. I actually bought this muzzleloader at a Dunham's sporting goods store, and this particular model, the CVA Wolf, was $309. So seems like a pretty good deal so far to me. This particular name brand of scope is a Conus. Not sure how it's pronounced. I don't know a lot about this type of scope, so I guess we're going to find out. But if it's at all a halfway decent scope, to come with this for $309, it's not a bad deal. Just kind of check the tightness of this. Make sure it's on there good and tight. Seems to be. Okay. And we're not going to go real tight with this, of course, because we want to have a little bit of play to adjust the levelness of the scope. We want to get the scope nice and level, and we're also going to play with the eye relief a little bit. So we don't want these to be too tight just yet. Yeah, that's going to work out pretty good. Scope looks good and level, and the eye relief looks good. So I'm going to tighten it down there. Okay, scope is on. Now, this is a break action, and how you open it up is you've got this lever right in front of the trigger guard, and you just pull that back, and the rifle opens up. Okay, and then you just take it and shut it to shut it. The manufacturer does recommend that you close it with a little bit of authority just to make sure you get a good positive closing of the rifle. And one functioning safety check that they recommend is to open it up, okay? And what you're doing is you're kind of checking how the firing pin is working, okay? You're kind of double checking that firing pin. And what they ask you to do is to pull the trigger back and push the hammer forward, and that firing pin should come out. And when you let go of the hammer, it should return back in. And that ensures that it's kind of returning to the position it should be in for when you're closing and opening the rifle. We're going to open this up again, and right here is our breech plug. Okay, and one thing that I can tell that I'm going to like a lot about this particular model of muzzleloader is how accessible this breech plug is. Okay, and for any of you that have used muzzleloaders and cleaned muzzleloaders in the past, you might know what I'm talking about, but sometimes it's kind of a pain in the butt to get the breech plug out of certain models and makes of muzzleloaders. But this one looks like it's going to be real easy. In fact, the manufacturer actually recommends that you only put this breech plug in finger tight. So you can always take it out with just your fingers too, which is kind of cool. And again, for those of you that have used muzzleloaders before, you probably understand how dirty and corroded the breech plug can get, and how important it is to keep this lubed up real good so you can get it in and out. And of course, for the firing, it's extremely important to get this breech plug nice and clean through this little hole down the center of it. Another nice feature about this muzzleloader is this hammer spur that's attached to the hammer itself. Okay, it makes it real easy to pull that hammer back. And any of you that have used a hammer type single shot action rifle or muzzleloader with a scope, you know sometimes it's a little tricky to get your thumb in there under that scope and pull the hammer back. But this hammer spur makes it real easy. It kind of allows you just to kind of go off to the side of the scope, pull the hammer back. And another nice thing about it is this can be undone and put onto the other side of the hammer itself, you know, depending on whether you're a right or a left-handed shooter. So that's kind of a nice feature too. Now, another thing that we're going to want to do is we are going to want to put some grease on the threads of this breech plug. Okay, so we're going to take it out. I actually have some CVA breech plug grease. Okay, and we're just going to apply a little bit to the threads of this breech plug. We want to get a nice layer of grease on these threads. Black powder can be very corrosive, okay, and if you don't keep a nice layer of grease on these threads, sometimes they'll corrode up and it'll make it very difficult to get this breech plug out. And you want to be very careful not to get grease in either end of the hole that goes through this breech plug, because that could cause you to have a misfire. Now, I would highly recommend that you read the entire manual before you do anything with this muzzleloader. Okay, and it also says right on the manual to watch muzzleloading basics videos at CVA.com. Okay, and that's probably a real good idea too. This video is just meant to be a basic overview of what you get when you buy the CVA Wolf muzzleloader. What comes in the box, what this particular camo pattern looks like, what I like about it, that sort of thing. Okay, but again, I would highly recommend that you read the manual and watch some of the CVA.com videos also. And in the packaging, it comes with this little knob, okay? And this little knob is called a palm saver, all right? And what that does is that screws onto the end of your ramrod, okay? Just like that. And then as you're loading the gun, it kind of saves on your palm, right, when you're pushing down. And we'll get more into that when we load it and shoot it. All right, well, I think we're ready to go out and bore sight it and take a few shots. Hey guys, do you want to get that big buck this fall? Well then head on down to Camaro's Crawlers and get yourself a bag of Last Supper deer corn. Last Supper deer corn is no ordinary deer corn. First of all, it's only available at Camaro's Crawlers. Second of all, my buddy Ronnie Camaro, the owner of Camaro's Crawlers, mixes every bag of Last Supper deer corn with 3 special ingredients. The first special ingredient that Ronnie mixes with every bag of Last Supper deer corn is fish oil. The fish oil gives your buck a nice clean, healthy, shiny coat, and that'll really pay off when you bring that big buck into the taxidermist. The second ingredient that Ronnie mixes in with every bag of Last Supper deer corn is Viagra. As soon as that buck takes a bite of this deer corn, he's going to be in rut all season long. And the third ingredient mixed in with every bag of Last Supper deer corn is caffeine. No longer are we going to let those big bucks bed down during the day while we're hunting. We're going to get them up, hopped up on caffeine, and running around all season long. Ronnie Camaro's girlfriend did the graphics on the bag. I think it turned out pretty cool. Hey, if you care enough about that big buck to shoot him, you should care enough about your big buck to buy them Last Supper deer corn. And remember, Last Supper deer corn is only available at Camaro's Crawlers.
Alright, so I'm just going to do a basic bore sight right now, and it's really easy with these break action muzzle loaders. We're just going to take this breech plug out, and we're basically going to line up the bullseye, looking down the barrel and looking down the scope.
So basically, when I put the crosshairs right on the bull, like they pretty much are now, and then move down without moving the gun, I try to center that barrel just visually as much as I can and kind of visualize where would that bullet be hitting. So now we got the crosshairs on the bull. Okay, I had to adjust the gun a little bit to get the crosshairs on the bull. And if you come down here, it really does look like that left target is centered more in the center of the barrel. So I think we did ourselves a favor and we got ourselves a lot closer.
Alright, we caught some red that time.
Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. Alright guys, well, we're kind of starting to lose daylight here, but I think just a few more little tweaks and we'll be dead on. It's, you know, like you saw, it's maybe 1.5 inch low at 65 yards. So I'm going to give this guy a good clean job tonight. Maybe we'll shoot it a little bit more before muzzleloading season starts. But yeah, so far so good. Really happy with the CVA Wolf 50 caliber muzzleloader. So anyways guys, hey, remember to hunt, fish, laugh, repeat. This is Dave Knetter from Knetter's Practical Outdoors. Hey, thanks for watching and God bless.